You are in for an interesting ride.
23rd of June 2026, and we're in the Bexhill Picture House, Wetherspoons. And Peter and Elisabeth. Hello, Elisabeth.
Hello, everybody.
Meeting to have a catch-up chat about the research that he and some of his dowsing and remote viewing colleagues have found some ancient archaeology, specifically looking at the Boudicea material.
Some years ago, one of our members approached me and said, would I go over a site in Colchester? Gave me the map location and said, what could I find? So that was the area I had to look at around here. But I picked up all these burials here using my colour code. It's got the code on it, but we didn't know anything about that at the time. It was just male and female burials. At the NH Hospital development site in Colchester to create a housing estate. I went over it and I found male and female burials, and I transferred the image of the map over, which was this map, but without this code on it, because that comes later.
So that's a code you created with the help of RET friends for Boudicea.
That's right, yes. But the thing is, we didn't know anything about the connection, this possible connection of that site. That came later. So the thing is that after I sent this map in with the dots on saying male and female burials, I had some photographs sent back to me showing that archaeology had already started in the front, and several of my markers had hit exposed graves already with the skeletons in them. So I thought, well, Colchester, that's Boudica's sort of area, you know, the Roman big battle, and she was caught and treated very well.
For those who don't know who Boudicea is, can you give us just...
Of the tribe of that area, Iceni tribe, to 60
BC.
I wonder if she is there. Following the same system that we did for Henry I, where we struck a code for that. As you know, we've been doing a series of films on YouTube called The Dowsing Detective, showing the discovery of the system, how colour works on the mind sensory code. So basically, we can look at a photograph and determine whether the person is alive or dead with the colour codes we use, which are set colour codes for male and female, or cremation for burial. There are also other codes for death by volcanic action, stonified, we call stonified human remains. So we pick up on specific cases of interest to test out these findings, and we work with other remote viewers as well. So what we do is we code a person as to whether they're alive or dead. If they're alive and they're supposed to be dead, we then code them fully into something that you could say is rather like a DNA code. So you have the person's sex code on the top, which is pink, white and silver for a female, no silver for a male. And if they're dead, then it's black and yellow added at the end. And the bit in the middle is their unique little band of colours. So immediately, if you've got 7 billion people in the world population, you can cut that in half straight away just by putting, if it's a female you're looking at, just by simply having the pink, white and silver at the top. That splits them off from the pink and white. This is rather like the barcodes on products that you buy. There are multiple millions of variations you can have of these colours and these numbers, and we could, I know, extend the colours quite considerably, but it would make life extremely difficult. So first of all, we ask the colours of a person, and then we put those into the numbers, which is a zip code left to right, which is also called radionics, or we hold them in a colour barcode, something similar to this, which is the male burial code, pink, white, black and yellow, and we hold them top down in our hand like that. Now you can see all the demonstrations in the other films on the etnewsroom.com YouTube films, Grove 1, Grove 2, The Mound, all sorts of different subject matters, and please do refer to those as we go through with this case. I want to show you how this system works first, to show you the evidence. The logical item that Joe and I and Joanne did not realise had already been examined. A large article in the Daily Mail was stating that it was thought that King Henry I was buried in a car park in Reading next to an old disused jail. We thought that's just the sort of thing we'd like to have a go at. First thing I did was go on Google Earth and look for a car park next to a jail. So that cut it down quite a bit. Then they published a painting, Henry I, in the press. This is the image that they published. And this is the professor who's looking at it, Philippa Langley. Unbeknown to her, did a bit of work on Richard III. We were asked to look at a car park, not knowing anything about it at all. Could we find any burials under the car park? Well, we did, and we found it near the building. We all sent our reports in. The next thing we hear about is a lost king's been found in a car park, and we were all correct. When this came up, we thought, well, we'll have a look at that. Having coded that photograph into Henry I's code, so there's his pink and white as a male, there's purple for a royal colour, here's gold as a royal colour, and there's the black and yellow, which shows that he's dead, and all these other colours just actually add to the response. There is the radionics equal to that, 13, 7, 1, 9, 4, 2, 5, 11, which is gold, 10 and 5. We go over the Google Earth maps, and bingo, we found burials down here, males. This is the Reading jail area here, the Reading motorway here, and this is the car park. Not knowing anything about this whatsoever, that's all we were looking at. And we got these male burials down here, and a female burial here, a male burial quite close, responding to this code. These photographs hold the magnetic images of whatever's in the ground, and that's what these codes do. We work over photographs, you see. So if I come here, the rods just want to cross over that image because that value there is caught magnetically in that image there. I reported this to the archaeology department of Reading County Council. Cut a long story short, we discovered that there'd already been a ground radar survey done of that car park, and here it is, showing exactly the position that we'd found at the end of that car park, the angle there, at that very target point. So that is where the lost king and his wife is buried, under the car park. We're showing you this for evidence, basically, that there is the angle at the bottom there of the car park here. That's where we found the responses there to that code, unbeknown that this had already been done. So we just said we can confirm that this is actually the burial spot for King Henry I and his wife, and hopefully they will do an archaeological dig. I then found that a channel TV programme was already doing the groundwork for this, but what I'm trying to say is that this is evidence of the system that we use. And other people can do this. I can give these colours to anybody else and they can use them. The difficulty is them getting the colours. That is where the secret is, but other archaeologists can work with these colours. That's somebody who's dead. These numbers. So I struck a code for Boudicea here, called a radionic code, using the basic 3 starts for female, pink, white and silver, and black and yellow for death and decay, and then struck this barcode here, and then would go over the maps, because it's remote viewing over maps as well as on site. You can use it on site, but it's more efficient on maps because it acts like an ice cream cone coming up. The energy gets bigger as it comes up from the point below. So if you want to get a fine tuning on the map, you increase the size of the map from, let's say, this size to the size of the table.
So effectively it creates a sort of cone energy field
go over the map,
coming up from the point.
The last couple of months I sort of begin to wonder, well, what is going on? So I sort of went on the site here and found that it still responded in this area here, near the red tank, as a pinpoint in relation to the scale of the map, along with these female burials, and kept checking on it every now and again. So there's just like a road all the way around, and this is a track road coming across. So that particular grave was the one that responded to this code that's in this position here, just pointing to that particular position there. So on the larger map, better colour, it responds to this position here, where the building is under the building that was here. This was a black wooden hut, basically. So my contact sent me a map of this image here, of the skeleton that had been found, and something sent shockwaves through to me. And I thought, well, hang on a minute, this seems to be giving me a response. It wasn't what we were looking for, but it somehow opened the door. We must look further into this. So I painted up her code actually from the radionics numbers, you see, which we hadn't got before, only the number strip. I then found that Google Earth maps had been updated from the original map to show this. So area 1 is up here, and one presumes if that's stage 1, then this would be stage 2. And people kept telling me that stage 2 hadn't been started because we've got sort of burials here or graves here, and we've got tarpaulins over areas here. It's definitely been cleared out. The foundations of the buildings are there. Here's another map of it. And still, on this map, this response was there, but all this had sort of been cleared around here. And we kept sending messages, that's the area you need to dig, or please use the code and go on site and find out where you get your responses to this code. This is a unique code for that person only. And not only that, it's got purple in it. To have purple in your code, you have to be royal. Also gold or bronze in it. And if you're male, you can have silver in it, but not in the sex code up here. It would be somewhere else down here. You've got the sex code at the top and the state at the bottom, and in the middle are your colours relating to your genetics, basically. And then we noticed that this area that had been shown, all the foundations and everything else, had suddenly gone smooth, and cars were parked on it. So I said, well, whatever the stage is, that other stage must have started. Archaeology must have been done down there, otherwise you wouldn't be able to get access to it, would you? What I noticed it was just an intuition. If something had been found in that other area of archaeology, then that code should respond somewhere on the original site. Although you can have stain responses, after all, you can find a grain of gold in a sandpit with this system. So quantification is very, very difficult. So you could have a little bit of bone left and it will still give you the same signal as this old burial there. You know. I started to go over the map of Colchester and thought, I wonder whether it shows anywhere else. So it showed in this building here. You can see the yellow marker there. So there's like a road that comes up here to an end, and then that's the area it was responding in the building here. I then enlarged that up, and there we've got 40 Peckworth Close, and that, I didn't even know, it doesn't say what that building is at all, so I had to phone the guy up who owned this building here to ask him what this building was, and he said this is the Colchester Museum Services Storage and Research Area. And then I found that that's where it was responding, so they must have some material in there that relates to what we had on the site, but they might not know it's related to that particular person's unique code, you see.
So that's 4.
3 or 4 people, that would have been enough of a special branch to have passed the message up further for investigation. But something in that building responded. But about 2 or 3 in the morning, he sent an email to me, he said, I can no longer get the response in that building. So I thought, well, where the hell was it gone? So I started to go over the whole of there, and I thought, well, hang on a minute. if you've got serious archaeology, the first thing you need to do is to get it tested for age and tested for teeth where the person's born. I thought, well, Oxford University is one of the key areas, because I remember all this on television archaeological programmes. You know, basically, I got 2 responses in the Oxford University Archaeology Department here. So, Oxford Research Centre, Department of Materials, and also another response here, whatever that was, and the School of Archaeology is down here. So you've got archaeology storage area and research in Colchester responding, and you've got an archaeology area in a known scientific nuclear area responding. Other people picked that up. I believe you picked it up as well. Somebody said to me, that signal's moved out of Oxford. It's no longer responding there. So I thought, well, I'll get the map. So I found it on a railway line. Went to Clacton-on-Sea to the terminus station. So we then followed the signal from Clacton-on-Sea station along the roads and things down to a road here. Yellow marker here.
The code signal moved from the museum research storage area to an Oxford Scientific Archaeological Research Facility, and after the signal ceased responding there, Peter picked it up on the railway which terminated at Clacton-on-Sea and subsequently was picked up at a private residence in Hayes Road before moving to yet another enigmatic location.
Okay. Hang on. It's the material we're following.
Yeah.
It's the material we're following, and we're identifying the material with the colour code. Anybody else can use that. Their problem is getting the colour code. Nigel Hughes and Jeff Crockford of the biolocation team used to ask me for colour codes for what he calls dangerous materials that you couldn't really safely hold. And I would go into the 42 code and get those colours, then pass the numbers to them, and they found it worked for them, no problem at all. Not only that, but they could give those numbers to somebody else and they could work with it as well. So this is a very specialist system of divining or remote viewing. It's not the normal thing that people use, but I believe that this was tweaked by Mager, who did the Rosetta disc in colours. All I've done is to expand it out. But I don't think I would ever have got this ability had I not found the 42 code to start off with, which provides these codes.
Do you want to say what 42 is for those who may not know?
When we found the Arrowhead burial in our local town, when Alan Hayday, I helped Alan Hayday with that.
Another remote viewer in Dowser.
I'd never ever done any work like that at all. And there was this sort of arrow-shaped burial. So
Ancient.
Ancient. Oh yes. Well, we found out it was about 8,000 years old. So yes.
Locality-wise, in Tunbridge Wells.
And I now know after years, because we've been doing this for over 20 years, what that actually represented. But what we found accidentally was not to do with why the arrow was there. I thought the arrow was pointing to something like the toilet is here, or our burial ground is here. In actual fact, it points to Wellington Rocks. And anyway, but to do that, I had to ask 3 basic questions in relation to the mindset of ancient people who, in theory, shouldn't have had the abilities that we have, but quite obviously they did, but they didn't have it in material actions, they had it in sensory actions, which meant they could get the same quality of life and the same ability in a piece of machinery to do what we do today.
I don't think we addressed the 42 aspect. That is.
What it was, I found something which I will not go into, and I honed in on it, and I said, is there such a thing as alien life? And I got a response. So I said, could I have the colours, please? So it said yes. So it gave me these 5 colours. I had no idea that they actually had number, power, value magnetically at all. I didn't even know it added up to 42. We only found that out about a year later, you know. Anyway, using that, That's how we found the Project Y crash site, which
Yeah.
is my location to you can see
Yeah.
that film. So basically, I go into 42 to ask it for the colours for whatever it wants. Now, these things are related to the spheres and the orbs, and they are dimensionally time jumping. They've got a different dimension of space and time than our dimension, so that's why they're able to do different things than we can do.
And so just to
aeronautically,
say that, to be absolutely clear, that 42 it is some
It's a life
other
form, an intelligent life
intelligence
form, yeah.
which is not human.
No,
Well,
it's
unlikely to be human in other
It's
dimensions.
something that's interbreeding. Now, what we found was that the arrowhead was in fact pointing to a single female grave, and behind it was a block of 42 burials. So in other words, it's telling you about the breeding. So 42 is something involved in the breeding of modern humanity.
Well, it showed also that there was community between them and humans.
Yes, quite. Now, the thing is, we found this in another archaeological site called Wetherspoon, where you've got an arrowhead above the surface rather than buried below the surface. So it's like a mound in the shape of an arrow. You've got human burials in that mound. The point goes over the field to a block of 42 burials in an arrow pointing to a female burial. So it's the same thing but the other way round. So the female comes the other side, whereas it was between the male and the 42.
So the 42 intelligence behind your coding, creating these numerical radionic color codes, is a direct link to other intelligence of which
It
were...
knows everything about everything else as well. So
Yeah,
it basically
apart.
knows everything about every one of us too. I mean, it's strange to say that, but we all got a different DNA.
Yeah.
So that was something to do. What is interesting is the 42 burials do not have a differentiation between male and female. It's just a 42 burial. And not only that, but it doesn't have to have a special code added to identify it as a burial. Yeah. So it doesn't have to have black and yellow added to tell you it's a burial. It's just 42. Whether it's alive or dead, it's 42. Whether it's up there. So the thing is, it wanted, you have to ask questions and then it either responds with a magnetic response. It's either a yes or a no. So you have to come up with what you hope is the answer, yes, or you don't get any answer at all. So you can land up with a whole row of codes for different things in the subject matter. If you put a wrong one in, it kills the whole lot stone dead. So there's your double check. First of all, it's scientific because anybody else can use the colours. It's also got a checker in it if you put the wrong code in. For instance, if you've got a block of mineral and you want to know if it's got gold in it, and you've got yellow and green for gold, and then you put a silver code in it, and then let's say you put an iron code in, which is black and brown. If the silver if the silver is not in that stone, it will kill the whole lot of stone dead. Even though the gold responded singly and the iron responded singly, hold all three colours together, none of them will respond because you've got silver in there and it shouldn't be in there. So this is an intelligence system working in our minds that will allow us to interact.
And it has some precision.
Oh yeah, and it will allow you to follow this. It gave us the code for Boudicea because it knew Boudicea, and that was it. So once we knew that things were moving about in the maps, I thought, well, it's about time we painted it up. And of course, when you paint it up, all you have to do is to hold it in your hand like this, top down like that. You either have an L rod, which will for pointing, or you have two L rods and then a cross. Or you have a pendulum or some measuring equipment and it will spin around. So the thing is that that then allowed us to get a more accurate, to ascertain whether, the burial was on the map. Now, I don't know what my colleagues have done on this. All I can do is to pass the message on and say that is the reasoning behind this. We've got evidence that we've already used the system and it's been proved. Now, we're also looking for two other key burials. One is King Arthur. You keep getting people saying, oh, King Arthur is a legend, but he was buried in Glastonbury Abbey. And when the abbey was dissolved, the abbeys were dissolved, his burial was still there, and people felt that it should be rescued, and they rescued it. And nobody knows where it went, but we thought, well, it probably went to Wells Cathedral. Where else would you put it? But that doesn't mean to say it was put in a marked grave, it was just rescued and buried. Well, Alan Hayday and I went to Wells Cathedral, and Elisabeth as well, and they have a lady chapel there dedicated to King Arthur. Now, that, you know, why, if he didn't exist, do you have a lady chapel dedicated to King Arthur and a so-called mythological figure? So, Alan and I went round the cathedral, and we got a response outside a wall. We were in the chapter house, outside the wall, on the upper level. So we went out, and we went around, and there's a bridge that crosses the road to a dining hall, and then down the stairs to 42 cloisters along an avenue. Now, 42 cloisters. Under that bridge is a door that is blocked up, and outside that door is a response to King Arthur's grave, responding. So all we could do was to report our findings. I mean, what else can you do? I'm not going to go along there with a shovel. But archaeology should try and get some sort of jet ground penetrating radar there and have a look.
Did you ever get a response from any authorities about
No, because I think they know it is there. That's the point, because, you know, it's like Richard III. Nobody really wanted his body, did they? It caused a furore, didn't it? But we, several of us received maps of a car park for us to go over to find what we could, which were burials. And I found burials there, and it turned out that that was the car park for Richard III. So the thing is, everybody tries to keep everything hush-hush, you know, without, you know, we don't want moonlighters going along with shovels and pickaxes, you know, digging things up. But it's the system. You've got to try and avoid auto-suggestion. That's the point. It's got to be something that triggers you off. Oh, we must look for this, you know, because something's drawn our attention to it, you know. But as far as Cleopatra is concerned, that's one of the others that we're looking at. That was very interesting because there's so much known about her that they don't know where she's buried, because where she should be buried, nothing's been found. But what I did was decode her, and I went over a map of Egypt, and I went up the Nile gradually, and I got a response. If you're looking at the Med at the top, it was on the left-hand side of the Nile. I didn't even know, because it's such a small map, what the area was. So I had to take the glasses off. So I then enlarged that area on Google Earth, and I found that it was the entrance to the Valley of the Queens. So it's not in the Valley of the Queens, it's at the end of the road of the Valley of the Queens, and there's some temples near it. So I sent this information out to Joe and Alan and that, and they all came back, yes, that code is responding in that area. So I sent then Dr. Howarth a message, and he said, oh, that's interesting, I'll send the lead lady archaeologist who's down in that area along to have a look. But then the Egyptian revolution took place, and everything went silent and quiet, so no progress on it. All I'm finding is a man-made shaft, and so you've got something about 6 or 7 feet under the ground that's covered, down the shaft to a central cave area, then another shaft going down to a lower area. So it's a pre-dug arranged area with 2 females in it, and I haven't looked for anything else and response. So I'll just send that information out. So sent that out, and the Google Earth maps, and then the Daily Mail did a report after the revolution all quietened down about archaeology there, and I noticed something about the tree line on their photograph was very similar to the tree line that I had on my Google Earth map. So I compared the two, and I found that that area that has since been dug quite extensively around it, but not quite in the target area of the so-called Queen Cleopatra's.
You mean the target area that you identified?
Yes. I mean, you only need to use green 6, olive green, and hold that, and they'll find caves and tunnels below. They just find out where the entrance comes up, and then use ground radar. I mean, you can pick up oil at 10,000 feet, because what's happening is the magnetics are coming up from the ground and out into open space. So, oil is black, yellow and green, and that's why they call it black gold. So they can analyse things, and it's all through the sensory
perception.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's why the ETs are so interested in us.
Yeah, because it's their system.
Well, yes, I was just going to beat me to it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Peter.
But as I say, this is the one thing that we now
GCHQ, yeah. What the heck is GCHQ doing?
Yeah, well, it's very interesting, but the town I live in basically was a major area in World War II. And we have a house called Chancellor House, which is now flats. But in actual fact, it was built, and it was GCHQ, World War II's Central Intelligence Section, along with other ministries that were there, including Monty's bunkers for planning D-Day in Broadwater Dam. Now, ask yourself, why would you put something like that there, 30 miles out of London, in Bomb Alley, when you could put it on the Welsh border? So, in other words, there had to have been a reason for putting it there that was not necessarily a safety reason. Or it could be that somebody kept a souvenir of her remains and is buried with it. Because it will still give the same.
That's another interesting
the
option.
same response, you see, until somebody digs there to find out why we're getting that response.
Well, Peter Vincent, once again, thank you very much. Fascinating stuff as ever.
Well, there you are.
And thanks, Elisabeth. And I enjoyed my small veggie brunch. Yummy.
I enjoyed your present.
Oh, great.
Absolutely tasty one.
There's the 42 code. There, see?
Oh, yes, let's just have a look at the 42 code. Yeah.
See, red, pink, grey, silver and green. Yeah. And you can go over a star chart. See, this is interesting. You can go over let's say the Daily Telegraph star chart, which is quite a few feet wide, square with the whole of our universe at that time. And you can hold this, go over it, and you can pick up where there are responses in there.
Well, I know that Jeff Crockford from the biolocation team, along with Nigel Hughes, but I was with Jeff when I saw him demonstrate this on a solar system replica that magnetically on his lawn, and he was tracing craft coming from the far edges of our solar system into our solar system. Absolutely amazing.
Well, 42 actually has large 1,000-foot diameter craft, and in it are 30 smaller 25-foot diameter craft around the outside of it. Each one acts as a generator when it's not as a craft for the energy that it gathers, and then it has a tube underneath with a particle direction finder in it, so that when it shows us a blazing cross many of the times. And that is why I wonder whether the ancient tribes were very fond of keeping stones, anything with a cross on it. Christianity wasn't around 8,000 years ago, but at the time of the mammoth, tribes in the lower Adriatic area were actually sailing stones with crosses on them. Policemen's report in Cornwall about the craft with a blazing cross on it.
Well, that's interesting too, because I remember Mike Smith calling me some consternation, saying, "Joan, I'm just driving," literally pulled over, and he was in the Staffordshire area. He said, "I've just seen this cross, this massive big cross in the sky," and as he was traversing the cross, obviously the perspective changed, and it wasn't a cross in fact, but the cross was showing as part of the structure of a big craft. So from the perspective he saw it at one point, it was a big white light cross, and then a craft.
It's a particle direction finder, so it can form across.
A bit like a
or it can go
compass,
as a
I
direct
guess.
straight line. It just shoots the craft. The thing is that, as far as I'm concerned, 42 is connected to Orion, the Orion system. So it's very important to Egypt. And I reported that there were burial remains responding along the causeway to the Lion. I noticed on the BBC a couple of months later, I don't know why, it just came on the BBC News at 1 o'clock, Radio 4. It said that the Egyptian government was putting a 12-kilometre fence all the way around the pyramid system to stop people taking stuff in and out, because you can pick up this 42 remains and you've actually got a divining witness for any 42 burials.
So, Peter, just to clarify, I don't think we looked at what it was that stops the divination process or this building being seen by remote viewers and dowsers.
Well, because the thing disappeared out of Oxford University area, and don't forget, on the same line across the map to Gloucester, Oxford is just sort of halfway across, and I noticed the energy was going towards Gloucestershire. So when I went along it, I found it came to this area here. When this building was constructed, as I understand it, there were certain materials put in the roof to stop diviners and eavesdroppers homing in.
It hasn't worked then, or maybe it's worn
not
off.
to the 42 system, because one of the things people seem to forget is that most of the technology we have today, most of this engineering has come from crash sites such as Roswell and the Russian crash sites where they actually were able, and German crash sites where they were able to develop technology from these crash sites. It's that a lot of electronics we've got are derived from their creations, 42 creations, and not our creation. So in the technology, they have the ability to actually switch us off. And they haven't realised this, that so 42 that they provided us, maybe with crashed craft and things like that, with technology that we can reverse engineer, that we must understand that in that reverse engineering they have built in a system, either through the materials or through the way that it's constructed that we're supposed to copy, turn them off.
So, didn't work, GCHQ.
So yes, the technology is marvellous, but we are doing their bidding. We are being built in their image, would say we are in his image. It doesn't matter what faith you are, it's everybody is affected.
Okie dokie. Even buildings, even GCHQ.
Well, yeah, they don't realise it. Or if they do, they can't do anything about it. Look, I can tell you something. The first evening we were here in Eastbourne on our little trip, there was a gigantic bang, a swoosh, and then another enormous bang. I mean, it really was a loud bang. People woke up at night. So when I went down to the desk, she said, oh yes, it's been in all the papers and all the media, we just do not know what it is, nobody's owning up to it. We had another one last night. At around about, it was about midnight. So this one, the big one, was about 12:15. Last night's wasn't quite so loud. And I'm wondering whether they're testing hypersonic rockets, which are going faster than the speed of sound.
Mysteries.
Yeah. Well, one other aspect too, can I just say this? I've been looking at Skinwalker Ranch, and I send them quite a bit of information that I find that is relevant to what they're looking at. They are finding exactly the same thing as what I'm finding, but using electronic equipment. They can't understand why their electronic equipment is being mucked about with. Well, it's because the forms have got access to it. It's as simple as that. Anyway, Professor Travis went into his computer, his den, where he keeps all his computers and his things. The thing is that his computers were got into. Now he has CCTV all around that area and in there, and there was no evidence of anybody gaining access into that office at all. And yet the computers have had their information downloaded in a way. Well, it's because they're in a space and time dimension. And you can't see them. They can see us. They can interact with us, but we cannot see them. We are talking about the same paranormal situation as ghosts. Some ghosts can be seen, some cannot be seen. It's all energy related. So, you know, they can land, they can put out an animal, like a skinwalker out there. They can put a Bigfoot down, and you wouldn't see the craft that's done it, and this thing just wanders around. They might even collect him back again, you know. But just admit, when I spoke to the military at the last Eastbourne Air Show, and they had to open up because I had photographs of things which they couldn't deny and solid objects. And he said that they'd actually been to CERN and seen the antimatter, and also been to the Hadron Collider. Now that's the military, the engineers, right? And he agreed with me that we are in a dimensional situation. Scientists quite believe that there are at least 6 dimensions. But if we just say that we're dealing with 2 dimensions, one we can see ourselves and one that we cannot see, but they can collaborate, they can link. So when they link, you get a glowing ball or a thing like that, but you're not fully seeing what it is. The energy is being gripped between one dimension and the other. And that's basically it. So if you accept that concept, everything falls into place. The rational explanation. But you've got to prove it. That's the point.
Meanwhile, I catch up with Peter at a more peaceful location just to go over a few details which might have been obscured by the noise.
See, the problem is this. You can have a skeleton, and as you know as well as I do, it splits up into all bits and pieces, fingers, spinal discs, things like that. Now, if you've got, let's say, several hundred bodies, they're supposed to be put in boxes. It only takes one bit of a wrong one, which doesn't make any difference to the body, the name of the skeleton itself, fits in, of somebody else. This is the problem we've had with illegal organ trade, that somebody can have an organ from somebody else. That organ has got the code for the dead person, the donor, goes into the receiver. The receiver's got its own DNA genetic magnetic code, and it knows that that implant is not of its origins, and it wants to reject it. So it has to have anti-rejection drugs. If you put a bit of wrong bone in from one skeleton to another, it'll give you a response that's Boudicea, let's say, when it isn't.
A
false reading, but a true reading, because it's a bit of her is in there and it shouldn't be in there. It's perhaps part of that bone, that body, has gone into her. It's swapped over.
Another good example of that contamination, let's call it, is of you and your one-time colleague, Alan Hayden, when you found grains of gold and thought,
in a sandpit.
There's gold here.
We got to a sandpit and there was gold responding in there. We got to the area in the sandpit where it was, and we had trowels, and we dug down and we found that one of the trowels was containing the sand that responds to the gold, but not underneath it or around. So we then sifted it out until we got just something about the size of your fingernail responding to gold. So there was a gold response in there. I mean, it's very handy. It tells you gold's there, but it doesn't tell you what the quantity of it is. You see, you've got to do other tests on that. But what is interesting, we then noticed, because of it going down on the railway lines to Clacton-on-Sea, going to and from Oxford research labs, I mean, somebody might have been doing this by themselves, and I fully believe that they may well have done this, because when you see where some of these bits have landed up, I think that they're looking to see whether, in fact, you can follow people by colour codes, whether they're dead or alive. Yeah.
Peter, just to reiterate, because I'm not sure it's clear enough, what the Oxford Research Unit is, what it does.
Well, once I phoned them up to test some of my own archaeological finds, and because they were in rock form, they couldn't do it. So they have a lab there that can measure for carbon-14 and also can find, I think it's the strontium in teeth to age for where the person has come from. So you get age and you get the person where they were born, sort of thing. If we had a pair of L-rods against that code, we could go into that building in Colchester, which I hope Joe might be able to do this, go along and find out which box is responding to this. So it could be marked with a question mark on it, see whether it carbon dates the correct period. The interesting thing about this is because it's got purple in it, it's a royal burial response. The same with Henry I, it's the same with King Arthur, it's the same with Cleopatra, which we're looking for. She's not where you'd think she'd be. She's been put where you would not expect her to be, partly because they wanted to protect her remains, never about her wealth, but her remains. Dr. Hawass, when I spoke to him about this, he said, it can't possibly be there. It's the wrong dynasty to be there. before the revolution, when I contacted him about this, he said, I get the lead lady archaeologist to go down and have a look. And of course, we had the revolution there. What is interesting, on Google Earth now, I find that they are excavating that area in Egypt off from the Nile, not in the Valley of the Queens, but at the entrance outside. And what drew my attention to that is the Daily Mail, which I send a lot of information to, had a big photograph and an article on this, and I recognised the tree line to our Google Earth maps. Now, I had several remote viewers going over those maps, and they all say Cleopatra is there in a shaft going down to a chamber, and then another shaft going down to a lower chamber, 2 females in there, but not much else. It's not noticeable on the surface, or it wasn't then. You'd be looking at it about 6 feet down before you even got the entrance of the thing, because all the sand and everything, you know. Now, what is interesting, we picked Boudicea moving on the map from Oxford, but not going back to Colchester, crossing over into Gloucestershire. So I thought, well, hang on a minute. Who in Gloucestershire would be interested in anything like this? I have sent a lot of my stuff over the years about research and how colours and all this sort of interacts, tracing people, missing people, space and all that sort of thing. I mean, the MOD had a considerable package of papers in the autumn of 2006, some 230 parts. And now I've got a postage receipt that it was received, but they told me they wouldn't acknowledge it, but that's why I got a receipt for it. The information was there, it was passed on, that's all I have to do. But here we've got a map showing that code responds to the car park in GCHQ in Gloucestershire and went in to the entrance here, and a new map shows that 2 points responded within the building there. You know, when people do this, they won't let other people know. And what better was our 2004 test at the Natural History Museum. Roger Trussell, Alan Hayday and I we were invited up, and the lady in charge of fossils and things said, we're interested in this colour idea. We want to know how the ancients did things. You say you can find gold on maps. She said, well, gold's been found in Cornwall. Can you show us on the map where it's been found? Because we know where it's been found. So she laid this map on the table, and I went over with yellow and green, which is gold, and it responded on a beach. The other 2 had to go, and they found it responded on the beach. So she came over and had a look and said, yes, that's the area it's been found. And I said, well, it wouldn't have been on the beach. I said, it's come down from the hills and the rivers and flowed onto the beach. So I said, let's have a go and see if we can find out where its origins are. And it sort of came further back into Cornwall. And then the real reason for this was, I live near, and that's talking about the person concerned, I live near a former Cold War missile site for the defence of London, which is now defunct. Can you tell us on the map where that is? Now, that's because we had a code for uranium and radiation, orange 4 for radiation. I went over the map that she had provided, but she said, I don't think actually the map's big enough in scale. I need to print the next one off. But in the meantime, I went over it, and something just guided me over the margin of the map into thin air. So the edge of the desk to thin air. And the other 2 went over it, and they found it there, and they said, we've got it here. It's just here in relation to... She turned around and said, yes, that's about where it is, because I live not far from it. That proved the point that we could pick up radiation and uranium on this. So it's usable for minerals, gases, missing people, all sorts of things. Everything has a unique code, absolutely everything. And I can show you something here. So absolute bundle. So once that code is struck, it's basically there for all time, and anybody else can use it for the subject matter. So we've got things like a rip stop nylon. That's for people bailing out of crashed aircraft. Nomex flying suit material, a Shahed drone. Yes, you can code a drone. 9102843. So whether it's in the air or on the ground, it's traceable.
Let's just go back to Colchester GCHQ, because I know that I actually found a response there that they have some kind of technology or material.
Yes, in the roof. It was made
supposedly stops access by such people as ourselves.
Yes. When it was built, they put materials in the roof to stop psychics and dowsers going in and try to extract information coming down. But the system I'm using is an alien system. It's not a human created system. It's been gifted. That's the point. And most of our technology has been gifted by reverse engineering. And the problem is that because it's been gifted or from crashes or whatever, or provided, the fact is that whatever information they've given us, they already have the means to override that for themselves. So we're going all electric and putting everything on the internet and on computers, and I think they could switch the whole lot off. You know as well as I do, because it's been well documented, not only by military, but these forms have turned American missile silos on and off to a dangerous level. They've done it in Russia. They've done it elsewhere, telling us what their abilities are. And we can't do anything about it. That's the point. Because we're relying on their information. They're teaching us, but they're not fools to give us sole reign without them having some control over it.
So back to Boudicea.
Boudicea, yeah.
Yes, but what I wanted to say was that we're still thinking that there is a response to Boudicea at GCHQ.
Yeah.
And you think, why did GCHQ, the intelligence arm of the UK,
well, it's an NHS government archaeological site. I explained the system to the archaeology department and certain people there. I mean, people are all around. I mean, most dowsing organisations are thought to have at least somebody in from that ilk to find out what's going on. Yeah, because just think of the implications of this. You just trace Boudicea, you can trace anybody.
You said this many times before. I mean, I'm sure the security services well know. Generally, the general populace does not take this.
No, does not know. I mean, I'll give you another example of this. We worked on Madeleine McCann, and that we say she's deceased. So we had a code for her deceased. Everybody knew about this. The powers to be had this information, and another group, unbeknown to me, was also doing it as a branch of the BSD. They actually found the same. But they had some sort of D notice slapped on them, which is don't publish. When the young lady turned up and said, I'm Madeleine McCann, well, the only way we could prove it had to be the same code, but we had black and yellow on the death for the death and decay. So we removed that, and it didn't respond on the person who said it. She was her. So we said, this is an imposter. So they think they are, but they're not, because their DNA is not responding. More important, we're finding people moving about with the dead code.
I will just say that some years ago, I was with you when you were doing that sort of deep dive work, and you found a response to Madeleine McCann in an American medical hospital in Madrid.
Yeah, that's right. And the thing is that the person didn't live there, because what we do is we follow them. They were on one of the Spanish islands, no airport. So I had to get a ferry to the next one and then get a plane over. But we followed aircraft, people on cars.
Across continents.
Yeah, quite. Well, you followed me on a plane going out to Greece. A unique colour code can be traced in the Royal Mail. So I sent something to Houston in the mail and tracked it to Gatwick onto an airliner over the Atlantic down to the US and along the road. And I went into British Airways and I said, how long does it take for a flight to go from A to B there? It was about 12 hours, which was about the right time.
That just proves the power of this system.
Yeah, it's alien. They know everything that's going on. Sorry, all these military people are fools, quite frankly, because they're not in charge at all. I mean, I hope people's eyes have been opened a bit.
Well, on that absolutely as ever fascinating note, thank you very much, Peter, once again. Bye for now, everyone.
Wetherspoon team.
And this part, in this temperature, it's the Wetherspoons team.
On location.